Spawning up in the top right-hand position of Frost as the blue Zerg player. None other than Hope. And his opponent down to the bottom right. The red Terran representing Millennium. It's Dayshi.
Hope, of course, is teamless right now, so he really wants to make a really good impression to maybe spark some interest in him.
Yeah, I think this could be a moment for Hope to shine. And that's the thing, if you are, especially if you're teamless, getting up into WCS EU Premier basically puts a massive sign me mark above your head for any team that's looking to pick someone up. Because realistically, especially the bigger teams, the decent or the good contracts are going to go to people who are in WCS Premier. Because that's where all the exposure is, that's where the sponsors get their glory, etc, etc. So Hope has got a lot on the line here. Dayshi as well, going to be wanting to make it up into that Premier League where you can make the good money, get the good views and everything like that. So that's really what's on the shoulders of these two players. And unlike last season, if you don't get into Premier, you're out of WCS until you requalify. And that's a lot on the line.
It definitely is, and we do see both players actually opening relatively greedy here. We have a standard hatch first for Hope versus a CC first on the low ground from Dayshi. So also not a particularly early pool, going with the 16 pool follow-up. Everything very, very standard for Hope, and this is not too weird out of Dayshi either, who is just going to be going for a bit of an SCV scout in what appears to be the wrong direction, unfortunately for him. Hope did pull back that Overlord as soon as he saw the edge of that CC, and the Overlord does have a further vision range than the SCV would, so Dayshi does not know yet that Hope has seen his CC.
Good little early bit of vision though for Hope coming down there. He could try and punish it potentially. He's not in the greatest spot to punish it, to be fair, since he did open hatch first, but it's not unachievable, trying to do something about that. But I suspect he may just look to try and take a very early third, specifically since he's got the scouting information long before Dayshi will have. Meanwhile,
yeah, that's definitely something he could look to do, but it looks like for now he's just going to be going for a pair of Lings to be able to scout around and going for the double queen. Definitely going to be playing gasless. He hasn't added on the otherwise standard 3-minute gas, so gasless probably until around the 5-minute 30 mark. That's when I would expect him to see Hope add on 2 gases.
Well, everything really going to plan for the moment for Dayshi at least. Happily getting that down, adding on obviously the gas nice and early. Should be looking to produce a factory fairly soon, I would imagine. Just teching up relatively solid there. Could also look at adding a tech lab on, but no, it's going to be the factory first, so everything good there. Couple of things, as you said, from Hope running forward. He's just injecting up, going up to 4 queens, which is something I think is pretty much standard, or should be for most Zerg players. Getting that additional queen.
You have to if you're going gasless. There's nothing else to spend your minerals on, so he's just basically playing a very, very standard gasless game so far. And yeah, just poking at the front here with his couple of Lings. Going to be able to see that there is an expansion, there is a bunker. Double gas going down around 5 minutes 10, so a little earlier than I would have anticipated. And now we do have the reactor and the factory nearing completion as well. We'll see a bit of a switcheroo go down, and then most likely be seeing Hellions being cranked out of there. The question, the first real deviation that Dayshi could do is he could go for a starport, add on that, and then go for a couple of Banshees. He's also gone for a block at the third, which I think is kind of cute, but it is scouted immediately by Hope. And
this block is irritating, but it's not going to make too much of a difference, especially considering there's a good number of Zerglings now down speed. Hasn't yet even been started for Hope because of this late gas, and therefore he doesn't have very much map control. The Hellions that are being produced at the moment are going to be a little bit irritating. But again, probably not game ending. Both of these two opting to be slightly more cautious.
Yeah, we do see a very early third base coming out from Hope as well, going for the third CC instead of adding on a couple of extra Raxes here, so definitely wants to be playing as economically focused as possible. I wouldn't be too surprised to see a double engineering bay follow-up come up in the next 30 seconds or so. And until then, though, just going to continue cranking out Hellions. No starport just yet. We have a stim follow-up from Dayshi, so a couple of Raxes wouldn't go amiss here.
But the thing about what Daishi's doing is he's playing for the mid-game, and that's why your call of getting the double engineering base down was exactly right. Everything Daishi's trying to do is make himself as strong as he can be in the mid and also later stages, suspecting that Hope is going to be a bit more passive. He knows the Hope hasn't really been pushing out too much. He's got the Hellions for the vision, and with the bunker coming up and the quite narrow entrance into the natural base, Dayshi shouldn't even be too worried unless there was a very aggressive play coming down from the Zerg player.
Yeah, Dayshi hasn't actually scouted much. He's scouted that the third base is there. He knows that there's a good number of queens. But seeing that number of queens, he's going to assume that it's gasless. And 99 times out of 100, seeing that many queens and assuming gasless, you'll be right. But
this is quite interesting. A single... Oh, no, it's got cancelled. I was going to say, that was going to be very unusual, getting a Reaper down. But Dayshi cancels it. Should be pretty good now. See that Hope just taking out these rocks because he's wanting to open things up, not create a tight choke so he can get better surrounds, etc. 1-1 upgrades also coming down from the Zerg player. Quite a lot, or about exactly the same time actually as Dayshi's 1-1 upgrade, so they're going to be fairly similar. But Hope getting a great scout down now, sees that third orbital command, and also gets a good timing on the factories and stuff like that.
Yeah, we have 2 more Raxes going to be added on now by our Terran player. Going to look to really ramp up his production, going up to a total of 5 Raxes here. And with Stim nearing completion, he's going to look to probably produce mostly Marines here, and then go for maybe a little bit of pressure with this. We don't have a starport just yet. He's adding on a lot of racks instead of a starport here. So I wouldn't be too surprised to see him push out with a good number of units around the time that 1-1 is nearing completion. Only now adding on the starport. So he may push with the first couple of medevacs, which should finish around the same time as 1-1. We do have a Spire on the way now for our Zerg player, as well as the Baneling Nest halfway complete. Going up to 6 gases now. All is looking very, very standard for Hope so far. And Dayshi only deviating very slightly with the later starport.
Scam being used there just to start pushing back creep spread, which currently actually Hope doing a great job of, especially expanding down this right hand side where he could be a bit vulnerable to any sneaky attacks. A 4th base getting taken right over to the left wasn't spotted by the Hellions as they came through from Dayshi, and therefore is going to be able to probably finish up quite nicely. A couple of Lings getting roasted here. So far these Hellions have been very effective. Not been able to kill many workers, only 3 going down for the time being, but still just causing a good number of Lings to be produced. 24 now on their way. The Baneling Nest is done, the lair finished, so we should be seeing some more upgrades. 2-2 getting started, and of course that Spire nearly complete as well.
Kudos to Hope as well. He pulled those drones away just the perfect time as he did identify that the Hellions were moving in for the high ground attack there. Not losing any workers really, except for a couple, when it could have been pretty disastrous. Meanwhile, we do have Dayshi with his Hellions still not identifying the existence of a 4th base there, so a little bit unfortunate for him. His the Spire now for Hope also finishing up, and he's going to be getting 7 mutas. I want to point out just once again that Dayshi is playing this game almost completely blind. He is basically assuming a lot of stuff. He's assuming that Hope is playing standard, and luckily for him, he's assuming correctly. Oh, we have a lot of Lings here. Hold that thought. We'll get us around on a couple of the Hellions, but here comes that push out I talked about earlier with the 1-1 upgrades. That's a lot of bio.
It is a considerable amount of bio. The 2 medevacs are coming to join up in this army. Need to boost over. It's nearly off cooldown yet again, and this is where we're going to see a lot of pressure applied by the Millennium player. Can Hope actually hold this?
Well, the Banelings need to connect well. They are on creep, but they don't have speed, so relatively good splitting coming out so far, but it just doesn't look like there's anywhere near enough units here to actually deal the damage that Dayshi needs. One of the medevacs is going down already. The other one getting very, very low. The boost is on cooldown. Down it goes, and overall, an overwhelming win for Hope here in the middle of the map, and he's going to look to push this back. There's a lot of Marines there, so he can't push into that just yet. Still no Baneling speed on the way, which I think is a pretty important oversight, only just now starting it, so Banelings are incredibly ineffective off creep without Baneling speed, so I don't think he's really going to be able to attack into this too well, especially with the SimCity that Dayshi has going for him. But Hope has secured himself a nice little safe position here. He's got a good amount of drones. He's up to 77, 3 more in production, 2-2 nearing completion. A little bit of an upgrade lead there. Let's get a couple of mutas here. Not ideal. And we'll be able to pick up a couple of these medevacs though. And well, the Baneling's not really doing that much. They are not effective at all without Baneling speed on creep.
No, Baneling speed has only recently been started, so it's very delayed. A couple more Mutalisks taking a bit more fire. The bunker aiding in that defense. We don't mind getting a quick little detonation down. I think that actually went on a couple of Mutalisks, which is always very nice. Another Baneling will die, and Overseer falling too. The one thing going for Hope, though, is the fact that he's got his fort secured. He's got a macro hatch up now, and he's still producing out a good number of Mutalisks, but he's lost 5 so far, I believe. Yeah, 5 Mutalisks have gone down.
Yeah, Hope had secured himself a pretty nice lead when Dayshi, with that attack, didn't really do anything, but he threw away the lead with the overextension there, which is a little unfortunate for him. He's not behind, really. Well, actually, I take that back. He is actually behind here. He is sitting at actually a 20 supply deficit for a second. 36 more Lings starting up right now, and he's not really far behind. He's a little bit behind, but his upgrades were ahead. It's 2-2 to 2-2 at the moment, so he's not behind on upgrades. Creep spread looking absolutely fantastic for him. And with some good Baneling connections, he should be able to hold this pretty convincingly. It's going to come down to the engagements here to see who will take a more commanding lead in this game. 15 Mutalisks on the map is pretty good for sniping off Medivacs as well. So overall, Hope not in a bad position, but Dayshi has a pretty good macro. He's looking pretty solid in supply count.
A little attempt there from Hope, trying to find a nice avenue to get us around, but with good Marine splits, not much getting achieved. A couple of Baneling detonations will go down. Big push in now from Hope, realizing those first few hits were quite good. Still streaming forward with those Banelings. The Mutalisks, though, unable to contend with these 2-2 Marines, having to retreat back, while a drop is hitting the 4th base of Hope, completely undefended.
Yeah, unfortunate for him. The Baneling engagement there off creep, even with speed, they still move significantly slower off creep, and some good splitting out of Dayshi allowed him to take that engagement. Now, Dayshi pushing forward on the creep, dropping the scans, trying to clear up as many of the tumors as possible, and the drop does finally get cleaned up at the top left here by those Mutalisks. That's going to be a nice pickoff for Hope, but Dayshi still in a slight supply lead here, and there's only 8 Banelings on the map. There's not that many Lings. There's 41, which is decent, but it's not an overwhelming amount that's going to be able to crush this, as there's 47 Marines, and Dayshi's macro is continuing to be very, very impeccable here, and he's looking pretty solid. There is a hive on the way, though.
Yeah, that's only just got started, though, and by the time that's finished, 3-3 will already be done for Dayshi. That gives him a very normal but a very large upgrade lead for quite a big period of time, and therefore, that's when we'll see Dayshi be most likely the most aggressive, and the Mutalisks the most vulnerable. In we come now, though, with a good number of Lings. There's hardly any Banelings, though, here, so that makes, obviously, engaging against a lot of infantry more tough, but no Widow Mines are burrowed for the moment. That means that these Zerglings and Mutalisks are actually trading very nicely. Hope able to take that army out, and now takes the supply lead.
Fantastic engagement there from Hope, able to clean up a good quarter or so of that army before engaging the rest of it, but now he may be overextending a little bit. A good Widow Mine hit went off on those Mutas. They are dropping in health, and a lot of the Mutas going down. Only 3 of them survived that absolute massacre. Great focus fire from Dayshi. And looking at the resources lost, Hope's actually lost almost 3,000 more than its counterpart here. And with a 4th base established for Dayshi, Dayshi's impeccable macro will continue to power out 12 Marines, 2 Medivacs, and 3 mines at a time, and a 3-3 finishing up. 18 Mutas on the way, though, for Hope. Jesus.
Even though there's 18 Mutalisks coming down, I would have said that previous trade massively went in favor of Hope, until he overcommitted and losing all of those Mutalisks. He's lost 24 Mutas now, Penguin.
Yeah, that's a big problem, because the style that Hope is playing is centered around Mutalisk retention, and he's really been slacking on that. He's also been slacking on the Mutalisk upgrades, which are only at 1-0, and when you're committing this heavily to Mutalisks, you really want to be continuously upgrading those Mutalisks. So a little bit of mistakes on Hope's end, and now he is going to try to do some damage here with a couple of Banelings, but they're going to be picked off pretty easily. That's another 150 gas down the drain. The Mutas, though, the Muta count is back up at 21, which is a pretty formidable force. 3-3 now on the way now for Hope as well. And a couple of Medivacs picked off in the middle of the map, or just one, but oh, there's a drop at the 4th base here, and that is going to be able to do a little bit of damage. Nothing too critical, but all damage is nice damage here for Dayshi, who is now maxed.
He's also got 3-3 done, whereas 3-3 only just now starting for Hope. That means those Marines are going to dish out so much DPS up against the Mutalisks. So if there are any more missteps with those from Hope, it's going to get really severely punished. +1 vehicle weapons is also on its way down now for Dayshi, who's getting out of Thor. That's quite nice, as well as adding in some additional command centers. So certainly starting to get ahead economically. Hope, though, nearly maxed out too, trying to go up into Ultralisks. With Adrenal Glands coming in as well as those 3-3 upgrades, he's got a bit of catching up to do.
Yeah, he really does. Although, never mind, the Ling run by into the 3rd doesn't do all too much. He kills off a Mule and almost an SCV. Nothing too great. But meanwhile, this push, the Mutas! Terrible start to the engagement. Hope does run away before the rest of them do go down.
Oh, no, he comes back in!
Again.
That is a big misstep with those Mutalisks. So many going down. The Zerglings getting taken out pretty quick. Banelings rolling forward, but good focus fire from Dayshi means that the majority of them go down. All of the Mutalisks die. That is a hideous amount of gas loss. And just with that Mutalisk flock, now 0. A grand total of 52 Mutas have died this game, Penguin, and that brings a tear to my eye.
Yeah, this game is essentially over at this point. Dayshi looking really strong. Great macro, pretty good control with his units as well. And Hope down almost 100 supply. There's a Thor in here now that would have helped deal with the Mutas if there were any left alive. 8 Banelings, sort of Hail Mary Banelings coming out to try to get the hits that they need, and looks like Hope's trying to do a bit of a run by here at the third base, but that's not really going to do too much. He's still down 90 supply, and with this death push knocking on his front doorstep, Dayshi looks poised to take game number 1.
Couple of banings, try and detonate, get some good hits off at first, but with the Thor, with that much infantry, nothing can be done. Dayshi takes map number 1 in this best of 5.
Well, the map is going to be Heavy Rain, and this is going to be our second map in this series. The first game, a little bit back and forth, but the Terran player able to secure it out in his favor. Pretty convincing play from Dayshi, though. The game itself was a little bit back and forth, but Daishi's macro was really impressive, and his control, too, was pretty top-notch. So, really solid play out of our French Terran player, but we'll see if our Swedish Zerg can bring it back. Why don't you go ahead and tell us where they're spawning, Mattles?
In the top left, as the blue Zerg, currently down a game, it's Hope. And his opponent down to the bottom right, the red Terran, representing Millennium, it's Dayshi. Now, I think if Hope hadn't have thrown away those Mutalisks repeatedly, it was quite a close game, aside from that.
Yeah, I mean, he had a couple of pretty basic errors, like the engagements with the Mutalisks, not continuously upgrading the Mutalisks, but overall, his build was sound, and he didn't look terrible with his unit control, with the exception of those couple of times. I think it was a little bit of nerves getting to him. Hope, though, is a solid player. He had some great positives in there as well, not the least of which was his creep spread, which was really fantastic. And if we could see him continue to play well in the aspects that went well in the last game, but improve upon those that didn't go so well, we could well have a very good series on our hand.
Statistically speaking, Dayshi is favoured in this series quite heavily, actually, and he's on great form versus Zerg at the moment.
He just took out Jaedong 3-1 just a couple weeks ago in the Wearer Invitational.
Which is kind of where you sit there and you're like, that's one of those matchups where you'd be sitting there going, yeah, Jaedong's got this, easy peasy. And then you get that kind of result, and it's always going to make you feel very confident, if nothing else, especially coming in to WCS Challenger. You're not expecting to meet someone of Jaedong's caliber, or at least his reputation.
Yeah, I mean, Hope is definitely a good player, but I would think that most people would agree that Jaedong is the more accomplished and better player. So for Dayshi to take him out 3-1, Daishi's definitely the favorite in this series. But I do think that Hope is going to be capable of at least taking a game or two. So I hope he, no pun intended, I hope he can show off his true skill here, as Dayshi is going to be going for a double Reaper opening here.
Probably going to be following that up into the factory for reactor Hellions, up to 4 Hellions, using the Reapers to tank up the damage, trying to keep it up. And to make that work, it's very important that we see Dayshi conserve these Reapers. They cannot die, otherwise that follow-up push loses so much momentum. Hope should make any damage drones up into spores or extractors or whatnot, but loses one, and that's very unusual.
It's not, like, it's not terrible, it's not a ton of damage or anything, but the real annoyance about that is that it's just that. It's an annoyance, and it's something that really shouldn't happen, especially when you make 6-lings instead of 4. It's just something that will weigh on your mind for at least a little while. It's just something that, like, makes you cringe at yourself when that happens, so he's got to try to put that out of his mind, try to just make sure that he plays as solid a game as he can from here on out. And we've got 2 Reapers now poking at the front. Third CC already underway, so an incredibly fast third CC coming out of Dayshi here to make up for the fact that he went for a later, quote-unquote, expand, even though it wasn't that late, just later than the CC first he went for last game.
One of these queens getting very low on health already. Dayshi literally using these 2 Reapers to the max, one with 1 HP, one with 4 as they pull back. This makes it a lot more tough. Any damage done now just basically softens up the follow-on push. And because of the map dominance granted by these Reapers and then the following on Hellions, the third CC is completely safe for Dayshi.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And I mean, Hope went gasless. Dayshi identified that it was gasless and immediately threw it on the third CC, which was very, very nice. Ow, got a second drone going down too, and Hope can't be happy about this. This is a Ling. The Lings aren't that big a deal, but losing 2 drones already is just... It's indicative that Hope is not probably playing at the best of his ability right now. He's probably not feeling all too great. And, I mean, the more drones you lose to these Reapers, it just really begins to weigh on your mind.
The Queen's pushing forward now. There's a decent amount of creep spread coming through with those 2 creep tumors up and running. And pushing this creep forward makes the third base that ultimately Hope really wants to try and get up and running. a bit safer to take, but the Queen's a long way off creep. Very slow, making this micro so easy. The Hellions and the Reapers getting some good damage down. Two of these Queens now very low on HP. Not enough energy on any of them to transfuse. And of course there's more Hellions coming to join in.
Yeah, one of the Reapers did go down, but if he can manage to pick off one or both of those two low health Queens, it'll definitely be worthwhile. But that one, the one on the red does have almost enough energy for transfuse, so he'll probably transfuse up that orange health one in just a second. If he doesn't get roasted first, and oh, he does get roasted first, that's unfortunate. The second Queen also getting pretty low in health, will probably get transfused. Oh, transfuse your Queen, please. Okay, good, he does. Dayshi is already forcing additional links too. 12 already out on the field, now going up to 22 with 4 more in production. Hope only sitting on 42 workers here.
His third base has been delayed as well because of all of this. Behind it, Hope yet again, Dayshi yet again getting to the double upgrades. Third CC, and is looking set for the mid game. While continuing on with more pressure, 2 more drones get roasted, a third one going down there too. And this is a nice amount of damage. A counterattack is going to be trying to arch around here for Hope. But can it really do much when the wall off is completed?
It's going to come down to whether or not the depots are down pretty much. But there's actually not all that much here to ward it off initially. So at the very least, it'll force Hope to bring his units back, or force Dayshi to bring his units back, which is something that Hope is going to be pretty happy with. It's going to obviously spell an end to the harassment. And here we go. The drone, the buildings are going to try to get some damage.
Oh, nice around here. Hellions getting taken down at the center, and this really gives Hope a lot more comfort in defending his third base, because I believe 2 Hellions were taken out there. Nice control with those lings.
And that's going to give Hope, for the most part, map control, and he's actually looking to cut off these additional 2 Hellions here. Good surround could go down, but no, not quite. No, yeah, he's not able to actually get those Hellions. He does actually get them, but committing into that, getting the Reaper 2, I would say that was worthwhile, but not as one-sided the trade as Hope would have hoped. And now we have just additional drones being cranked on out. He's up to 63, which is an okay number. But more importantly, he has a 4th base on the way and a Spire on the way. So he's trying to make up for the fact that he lost a couple of drones, that he had to make Lings instead of drones for a while by adding on that 4th base earlier than he probably otherwise would have.
Now, one thing I'm going to be really keeping a close eye on this game, Penguin, is whether or not Hope gets out that Baneling speed nice and early. Because game number 1, he didn't have it for quite a long time. And that meant that quite a few attempts that he made to deal with little infantry pushes were completely pointless, to be honest, because off creep those slow banelings just can't engage up against the Marines. Dayshi splitting was too good. This game,
yeah, I mean,
I'm hoping he comes down.
Yeah, against a player of Daishi's caliber, you really can't rely on slow banes off creep to do anything. And ideally, he'll... Yeah, there we go. Starting it up straight away to baneling speed. Hope not going to make that mistake again. He's got a macro hatch on the way up. 2-2 starting immediately as well. And he's going to be up to 5 hatcheries soon, which is going to be very, very nice for the larva production, especially with a Ling-centric composition like Ling Bane Muta. The big question for me is going to be, is he going to go super Muta-centric again? And if so, is he going to get more upgrades than just the +1?
I'm also going to point out that getting this 5th base up really strong if you can take those additional gases. Oh, sorry, 4th base up, getting those additional gases, because that's allowing you to produce so many more Mutalisks. Already 6 on the way out. Would like to see more, though, ideally. The Baneling's going to start waddling forward, trying to wrap around the Marines as quickly as they can. And well, some nice detonations go down. Good pickup, though, by the Millennium Terran. And in comes the drop towards the main base.
Mutalisks are about to spawn. They'll help clean this up. But the Queen is going to go down. A little bit of damage is already being dealt. Another Queen going to go down too. And finally, the Mutas come on in. One is focused down immediately, though, as they are coming in piecemeal. There are not necessarily enough Lings to deal with this. Okay, more coming in, but still really good focus fire coming on out. And a bunch of Mutas have already gone down.
Dayshi taking some... Well, taking a lot of blood here. And unfortunately for Hope, losing those Mutalisks isn't great. Again, we're seeing just the odd unit thrown away that perhaps he would want to keep up if he could. Meanwhile, Dayshi adding in the 2-2 upgrades. They're about half done. 2-2 for Hope, fractionally ahead. His 4th base up, but those 7th and 8th gases only just now being taken. And that means that the push coming in across the map for the moment is heading straight towards that 4th. And there isn't much to defend against it, as we see very little gas for Hope.
There's only 4 Banelings on the field. The speed for the Banelings is done, but that's not really going to help if there's no real Baneling count. There's 2 more on the way, but he doesn't have that much gas, as you mentioned. This is going to be really difficult for him to hold. The Mutas are going to have to get really good snipes off on the Widow Mines. They are doing just that. 2 of them, 3 of them going down very, very quickly. There's not really any Widow Mines left here. Are the Banelings going to get the connections they need? Yeah, they actually get pretty good connections here, but there's just so much bio. He has to wait for more of the Lings to spawn to try to soak up the damage for the Mutas. More Lings coming on in towards the 4th base. A couple of Banelings moving on forward. Do get good connections, but there's so many Marines.
And these Marines just keep on coming. There's rallied reinforcements across the map too. So many more Zerglings trying to get produced. Dayshi splitting well with no Banelings, or very few Banelings there. No massive detonations, but the push has now been cleaned up. The Medevac's boosting away. The Mutalisks not laying chase as of yet, just being slightly more cautious because of the reinforcements, but they do move in now to the Marines, and this is exactly what we saw in the first game. Hope sacrificing 3 or 4 Mutalisks there. In total, he's lost already 8. And this is why his gas count's so low.
Yeah, he's really, really struggling with this meter retention. He's doing well with the control of his units in the actual engagements, but the problem is that he seems to sort of lose sight of the units after the engagement, and then they'll get caught off guard by a flank of a few Marines here and there that'll focus down 2 or 3 Mutas before they're able to be pulled away, which is a bit of a problem. And once again, we have Hope just stopping at the +1 Muta upgrades, which I think is okay because he's not really going super hardcore Muta count. He's only got 14 of them, but he's making more Muta. Okay, there we go. +2 attack starting for the air. So he is going to continue the air upgrades this game around, which is definitely something that was missing last game. So he is continuing to fix the mistakes that he made last game thus far, which is really, really nice. And you know, ZVT, one engagement can really change the way a game is going. But
and that's what we're seeing here.
What
no, it's not. More Mutalisks getting taken down. No Banelings there to deal with just such a high Marine count. With 3-3 on its way too, these Marines will suddenly start doing such a high DPS. And for anyone who's maybe newer to Starcraft and might not understand why we make such a big deal about 3-3 Marines, it's because up against the Mutalisks in ZVT very rarely get the carapace upgrade, so every attack upgrade the Marines get means that their already high DPS gets even higher up against the Mutalisks, and that's why you see loads of them just fall near instantaneously to a group of Stim Marines.
Yeah, now that 3-3 is getting closer and closer to being done. This push will not have 3-3 though, and Dayshi, though, is nearing max. The Mutas trying to get as good an engagement as possible. More Banelings moving on forward here for Hope. Trying to close the distance. The mines are not going up. Good Baneling connects coming on in. Widow Mines also helping out Hope for the most part, and this is exactly what Hope needed. And this may help swing the momentum a little bit more in his favor. The Marines getting taken on out by those Lings. A lot of the Medevacs going down to the Mutalisks as well. The Medevac count falling down to only 2. Those 2 may also fall to these Mutalisks. Will this momentum allow Hope to push on forward and do some economic damage?
Well, Hope committing a lot to this, losing a couple more Mutalisks, but most of the infantry has now been killed off. The 2 remaining Medevacs backing away, trying to get to safety. This is a lot easier to hold here, and with no more Banelings, should see it shielded nicely. I love the way that Daishi's using these Marauders in order to act as a block for the Marines, the higher DPS unit. But Hope definitely came up pretty well there, maybe committing a bit too much, losing a few more Mutalisks. But his flock looking alright at the moment. He's got 9 down, 3 more on the way, and +2 air attack nearly done.
Yeah, the big problem is that the Muta retention when you're playing this style is so critical. Like, if he's lost 2 or 3 Mutas, that's fine, but if he's losing 2 to 3 to 4 Mutas every engagement, the Muta count's just not scary. Like, against a bio army, 12, 15 Mutas, they're not that scary. You really want to have 30 Mutas up to be able to snipe the turrets, go after a base. 40 Mutas up to be able to engage straight up against these against the bio army with Ling support. And he really doesn't have that Muta count that he's been looking for. And here we have another engagement here. The Muta flock is going to come on in, but there's just not very many of them. The Ling's getting shredded by the now 3-3 Marines. The Banelings trying to connect. Widow Mine going up beautifully, taking out almost all of the Banelings. Great focus fire from Hope, but there are enough Lings to push this back.
Notice Dayshi as well, focusing the Mutalisks over the Zerglings. He knows those Marines are going to go down, so he might as well deal some damage to the gas-heavy units. And following on from what he said, yes, a larger Muta count is scary, but more importantly, because Hope keeps losing 2 or 3 every engagement, he's having to replace those. That's a lot of gas, which means his Baneling count too is really low. He can't afford to keep remaking Banelings and Mutalisks every time they fight.
Yeah, we have another fight going on right now.
Oh my god.
Shred everything. The Mutas have to get out of there right now. Most of them do not die. but they are in the red. They will regenerate that faster than other Zerg units would, which is a nice little tidbit of information about the Mutalisk, but they have to stay out of action for at least a minute.
And while these Mutas just backed away, Hope is Dayshi completely safe. He's got a 4th base up now. It's a planetary fortress with missile turrets all around it. That's going to be very hard to snipe off, especially with the small Muta flock that we're seeing here. The natural base slightly more vulnerable, but of course not as essential for the moment, just because it's nearly mined out. Whereas Hope, he's still sitting on 5 bases, his 5th just up now, and so he's actually on equal bases with Dayshi.
Yeah, the Mutaflock is finally starting to look scary here. He's up to 23,
as he loses
losing 1 or 2 there though. And the biggest problem is that he's not continuing the upgrade. He's got a hive, +3 should have been started a long time ago. He should be closing in on 3-1 for his Mutas. Instead, he's sitting on 2-0 with no upgrade currently researching, which is a big problem for him. As the Muta may be scary, but the upgrades means Mutas themselves are not anywhere near as strong as they would otherwise be. Dayshi, continuing to push on forward on creep, has done a very good job clearing out the creep, and a little bit of an engagement here at the south side is going to allow Hope to start the engagement very nicely.
Oh no, the Mutalisks! Are there enough Marines there? Most Marines are actually at the back of the army, but all of the ground units for Hope have been taken out. He's got 36 more Zerglings on the way, but the Banelings, only a handful still remain, and they're getting picked apart pretty quickly by some nice focus fire. Push in from the left flank too means that this hatchery looking quite vulnerable. The Mutalisks are coming in. There aren't that many Marines, nor are there any medevacs to heal them up for the moment, so this should get cleaned up. The Mutalisk flock sitting at 15, so didn't lose too many there, and did deal some nice damage. Resources lost as a whole. Hope losing about 4,000 more resources.
Mistake by Dayshi there to split up his army. I feel like if he kept the army together, he would have had a much better chance of just pushing forward and maybe killing off that 4th base. Splitting up the army allowed Hope to engage it in 2 separate chunks, which in the end made it much easier for him to actually win that fight and hold the defense. But finally, we have +3 attacks starting here for those Mutas. The Widow Mines here at the 3rd base or the 4th base rather, have been moved into the mineral line, which is a bit of an annoyance. As we have 11 working kills total for Dayshi, which is not anything critical really. And now we have a 5th base being established now for Dayshi as well. So overall, Hope's income is going to continue to look a little worse, I'd say, considering the mules. Good control here by Hope. Does pull those Mutalisks back. Lots of Lings just spawned as well. He's up to a total of 92 with 14 more in production. So Hope is stabilizing, and with these little fights that are going slightly in Hope's favor, 4 fights have gone slightly in his favor, not massively, but as a result, he's pulled this game back to a point where it is now an evenly contested game, I'd say.
And the other thing as well is Hope has safely got out of the real danger zone where your Terran player has 3-3 and you don't because of obviously the hive timings.
Yeah.
Due to that, Hope now has level upgrades.
Attack here at the 4th base just to interrupt you. Massive Baneling count as the planetary is demolished.
Nicely done there by Hope. Now puts himself in a good spot. Yes, Dayshi still has another 4th base, what was his 5th, but engagement coming up here at the top right of the map. Banelings rolling forward. So many more than we've seen previously, and not getting dealt with quite as well by Dayshi as of yet. The Mutalisks not able to engage this big clump of Marines, but as the ground comes through, suddenly we're seeing all of these medevacs get taken down. Dayshi taking quite a large amount of losses here, and while he is continuing on with some reinforcements through, obviously he's got to deal a good bit of damage.
But the Mutas are starting to be absolutely demolished here as well, with 12 left on the map. That's just not a scary number anymore, and Hope, he had good Baneling control at the beginning of that fight, but then the rest of them, when he had about 10 left, just all detonated on Marauders, and as a result, Dayshi now with a 50-60 supply lead here, and this looks like it may be game. A really good game played by Hope, especially during the latter stages, but a couple of engagements that were just taken slightly better by Dayshi at the end, allowing him to snowball his way to an eventual victory potentially here, as he is still a 50 supply ahead with a good amount of base. We've got a little bit of a Ling run by at the 3rd, but there's almost no minerals left there, and the Lings aren't really going to be able to do all too much.
Yeah, that's the problem for Hope at the moment, is he lost another base. He's attempting to resecure one closer to the center, go back up to those 5 bases, but losing his 5th certainly will start to hurt him. He's getting Pathogen Glands down, which I do like. I think getting a few Infestors into the mix certainly will be helpful at locking down some of this army, allowing the Banelings to get better detonations, because so far Dayshi's been showing some great Marine splitting. He knocks out that 3rd base, forces a cancel on the 5th base, forces a cancel on it. while a couple of Mutalisks attempting to find somewhere to poke and prod, but Dayshi's got a good number of missile charges at all of his bases.
Hope's Muta count sitting at 11 at the moment. 11 Banelings as well. There's a good number of Lings, but I just don't know if it's going to be enough. He'll win this initial fight, but with the reinforcements coming on in here, Dayshi with an 80 supply lead, pushing on forward. The Muta count just isn't enough to make much of a difference. So many medevacs here as well. The bio pushing on forward. Hope plummeting below 100 supply here. Dayshi still holding strong, about 150. His army units are engaging on a ramp, and looks like Hope may hold. He will hold, but down to 88 supply. He's lost his 5th. His 3rd base is pretty much mined out. His 4th base also starting to mine out as well. And Dayshi, it's just a matter of time now until he does manage to close this game out.
A couple of Infestors going to be coming into the mix, and interestingly, Hope not gas-starved anymore. He needs the minerals. That's why the additional bases are so essential. And because Dayshi's sitting there, still with a good amount of income due to the mules, due to the high SCV count, he's up by 21 SCVs. He should be able to just keep producing, and even though the trades...
9 Infestors.
9 Infestors, yeah. That's, well, fungal growth is good, but it probably isn't going to level up. What will soon probably be about 100 supply difference between the two of them.
Yeah, it's a Hail Mary from Hope. He's really hoping that Dayshi really massively clumps all of his units in like one square space and allows him to chain fungal them to death, but it's not looking too promising here for our Zerg player.
Dayshi's also got his 6 base
mutas,
up now.
2 mutas.
6 bases for Dayshi now. He's in a very, very good spot. And unfortunately for Hope, he just doesn't have an economy to fall back upon. He can't... If he loses his army he's got now, Dayshi can still keep producing, is still producing, whereas Hope hardly gain anything, loses an Infestor for nothing there, and that's the sort of thing you just can't afford to do. And Mutalisk goes down. 1 fungal growth being used there, but not very much. Dayshi pushing forward. He's a double his opponent's supply. Good chain fungals coming down though from Hope at the moment. Gonna continue on in. Can he actually deal the damage that he needs with these fungals? No, he can't. GG's out, and Dayshi is now 2-0 up. Do the honors. Introduce these 2 players.
Well, in the 12 o'clock spawn location of Polar Knight, we have our blue Zerg player, currently teamless and also currently down 0-2. He had a better showing in game number 2 than he did in game number 1. If he can continue his improvement that we've seen throughout the first couple of games, maybe he can take this and make it a 1-2 standing. He is Hope. Opponent spawning in the 6 o'clock location. The red Terran player playing with some absolutely phenomenal macro and some pretty good control on his units as well in both of the past 2 games. Can he make it a 3-0 sweep and advance to Premier? It is Millennium's Dayshi.
Now, I agree with you, Penguin. If Hope can improve between Game 2 and Game 3 as much as he did between Game 1 and Game 2, he's got this. He's going to start his comeback and he's going to win the game.
He had one moment where he was actually in a really good spot last game in the late game, right up until that last engagement where he wasted all of his Banelings on the Marauders at the end, and then after that there was nothing to really deal with the Marines, so that was a very, very unfortunate engagement for him. But had that gone better, he would have totally had that game. He finally gotten himself up to a scary Muta count, and he was finally looking very, very solidly into that game with some good control. But I think specifically what Hope needs to do is he needs to make sure that he's on top of those Muta upgrades. He's been slipping on those. He did better last game than he did in game 1, but he still wasn't quite where he needed to be with continuously getting those upgrades. And he needs to be using the Mutas actively for harass. He was never killing workers. I think that was mostly due to the fact that his Muta count wasn't where he wanted it to be, though.
No, and that was because he kept losing them, and it was something I
Yeah.
touched upon in the game, is that the problem for Hope is there was... basically, Dayshi was being always aggressive, always forcing trades. And every single trade, Hope lost 2 or 3 Mutalisks. That's 200 or 300 gas, in addition to needing to use quite a few Banelings in order to take out the infantry and actually survive. And what Hope couldn't afford to do was resupply the Mutalisks and the Banelings. And he was often favouring the Mutalisks, which when you've got a small Mutaflock, it's not particularly scary. But he also didn't have many Banelings, so he never had that decisive crush of the infantry army Dayshi was using, which allowed Dayshi to just keep coming back, reinforcing with a couple of units, pushing a bit more, reinforcing, pushing, reinforcing, pushing. And as long as Hope actually goes for decisive wins, he'll be in a much better position.
Getting off to a better start against this Reaper is Hope already, not losing that first drone. Making a little bit of a difference to the last game. He'll be able to cancel the Spore Crawler that he made just as soon as the Reaper is chased away. Gotta be careful not to lose one of these two guys. Could go for a Gas Geyser here. Boom. There we go. And, yeah, second Gas Geyser. So not losing any drones this time around. It's a nice change up from the last time around, which is great. And going gases, not going gases actually. He's adding on a gas this time around. He's getting speed up. He really wants to make sure that he can deal with those Reapers pretty quickly. And with that speed, that also gives you another nice tool to help deal with the Hellion pressure that is almost definitely going to be following this up.
Oh, drone nearly gets taken down there, but Hope really stepping up in defending against that this game. And that's nice to see, because if nothing else, it gives you a much better mindset going forward. I think any player who loses 2 drones early on to Reapers, you're going to be looking at the mid-game as, I'm not playing well. It's something which, at this level, you have to be able to do every time. Back at home, Dayshi, though, is mixing things up a bit. He's going to be going for a couple of Banshees. He's got a Tech Lab and that Starport there, so he's going to really continue on with this harassment.
I like it. The harassment has served him well in the last couple of games. He's not changing up the mindset of, I'm going to play aggressively, but he is changing up how he's going to do it. So, Hope is not gone gasless this time around, which also means that he has one less Queen available. So, this doesn't really match up all too favorably for Hope. If he sees this coming, obviously he'll have plenty of time to prepare, though. Another big question is it going to be Cloak? I think it will be. Yep, Cloak on the way, as well as a Banshee. So, this could be a little tough to deal with. There's no lair on the way just yet. There's nowhere near enough minerals for a lair, or gas for a lair. He's only mining with 1 guy on gas at the moment. Finally adding a couple more in as well, but this is going to be tough.
It certainly will be. It's one of those things where if the Banshee catch you off guard, you're going to be running into problems. For the moment, we don't have an Overlord sacking in to go and get any scouting information. Hope should be doing that in the next 15 seconds at the latest. Generally, you see Zerg players sacrifice an Overlord at about 7 minutes to get a good idea. You can see most things at that time. But if he doesn't do so, he's not going to have spores down, he's not going to have additional queens down, and it's going to be very painful, especially since a lair hasn't been started either, so that's the only form of detection he could get.
Yeah, I think, yeah, God, still no lair. This is looking very, very tough for him. He needs spore crawlers. He needs a spore between his natural and his third. He needs one in front of his natural. And he needs it a long time ago. So, there's already a Banshee moving on into the main. There is a spore there, which is going to be nice. The detection range is farther than the actual shooting range. So, that's going to be, he's going to be able to detect that from a little bit further away. So, it's going to be pretty easy to deal with that if the Queens get in position. But there's so many Hellions here as well moving in on the third base. There's so many drones out already, 54 drones. So, potentially a bit of over-droning. More drones on the way, which is not necessarily the right decision here. But did he lose that Banshee? No, he didn't.
Nope.
Okay.
It's just chilling around here. Is able to get up 2 kills. Got a queen down 2. And that's always very good, killing a queen, because even though there's still 3 down, one of which was meant to be spreading creep, which Hope has been doing very well so far this game. Hellions moving in now. Try to get a queen down, but good surround from those links, chasing it off. Most of the Hellions able to back away. The Cloak Banshee getting a bit more damage. It should get a queen kill here. And with that queen kill, obviously Injects are now going to start hurting. There's only 2 queens remaining. And once you start losing Injects, you lose lava, you lose drones, you lose units, and you just get a little bit behind. So it's never ideal.
A bunch of Lings have gone down as well. There's only 14 Lings left, which isn't too big of a deal because there's only 3 Hellions left. A bit of a trade there. We do have additional racks being added on now by Dayshi, who's going to be really ramping up the pressure here, the production rather. And,
oh no, another queen could be about to die. It is going to die.
Oh god, he's down to only 2 queens for 3 hatcheries. That's never a position you want to be in. The Spire's starting up now, so his tech is still at a pretty reasonable time. Finally, the lair is done, so we do have an Overseer coming in as well. Banshee trying to get as much damage done as possible here. Not
1
quite
HP.
enough to kill off that queen. 1 HP, as you pointed out. And, well, overall, Dayshi can be very happy with the way that went. Overall, he's...
Oh no, Hellions coming in here. Not that many Zerglings. If they engage through here, they will all line up and get taken out pretty quick. Do manage to get the surround though. Nice control there by Hope. He's going to be able to kill at least one of those Hellions. The other 2 backing away. The Banshee yet again going in. We'll get another 2 queen kills there. And that leaves Hope with only 1 queen with 3 more in production. That's a long time without 2 Injects.
This is just absolutely disastrous from Hope right now. He isn't really gonna have any way to deal with a bio push that follows this up. There's not that much bio on the map right now, but with a total of 7 Raxes up, that's gonna change very quickly. And there's still 2 Banshees here too that are gonna get repaired up now as well. 6 Mutas on the way, but if the Marines are positioned well under the Banshees, it's gonna be very hard for him to be able to snipe those off. 4th base coming up for Hope because he knows he needs to make something happen. He's gonna be playing a little bit greedy here to try to get back.
He's also adding his second macro hatch.
Yeah, he is.
And it's a smart move. It's really smart because he was down to only 1 queen. He missed injects, therefore he had a build-up of minerals. And if you've got to build up minerals with no lava to spend anything on, you might as well make these hatcheries. So it's actually quite smart kind of emergency management coming down from Hope here.
Yeah, overall, I like the decision-making that's coming out of Hope right now, but the problem is that he's just so far
Oh,
behind.
nice little run by here. A couple of Lings managed to make it into the natural base as the supply depots were down. A couple of SCV kills gonna be achieved, but not much else, unfortunately, for Hope.
Yeah, it didn't do quite as much damage as he would have hoped for, but still nice. Any kill is nice, and it's nice to show that he's still trying to be present on the map as well. But Dayshi is moving forward with an absolutely scary force. 4 medevacs, 2 Banshees, 2 Hellions, 33 Marines, and a couple of mines in here to boot. The Mutalisks could pick off a couple of these units at the front, but the Marines have stimmed on forward. Is the engagement going to be good for Hope? He needs a really good one here. The mines are burrowed. Good hit on the Lings, doing a little bit of splash damage to the Marines, though, as well. The Banshees are cloaked. One of them gets picked off pretty quickly here. Daishi's still in a supply lead, but the supply lead has dwindled a little bit. 46 more Lings on the way, though, behind this, so Hope should be able to hold this relatively well. More Marines are being rallied forward to this forward watchtower. And with the 4th base established by Hope, there's no reason for Dayshi to scout over there for a while, so this should go undetected for a while, which may give him a nice little advantage.
Unfortunately for Hope, he's got late Baneling speed again. So off creep, he's got such a hard time with those Banelings to try and get the connections on the infantry that he so desperately is going to require.
Yeah, he's going to try to pull on back here, but a couple of straggling Banelings could actually be picked off for free. Doesn't look like they will be. Engaging on creep definitely going to be better than engaging off creep. Here we go. The Baneling's going to try to connect. The Ling's trying to go over the wraparound there. The Mutalisks are going to be able to do quite a bit of damage, and looks like Hope will clean this up, and actually in very convincing fashion, which leaves him with a pretty significant supply lead for now.
I'm surprised Dayshi went for that because he didn't have a monumentally large army. There was nothing really screaming, I've got an easy win here, because the Mutalisk flock was substantial, the Baneling count was pretty high. The only thing really missing for Hope was Baneling speed. And that's not enough of an advantage, in my opinion, for Dayshi to try and risk a pretty dicey engagement. And
important to note, though, is that he also did keep the medevacs alive. He's
yes,
still sitting
true.
at a total of now 10 medevacs as soon as these 2 spawn. So that's a very, very nice high number of medevacs. It's going to be very difficult for Hope to snipe all of those off in one engagement. He's probably going to get 3 or 4 next time they engage if he's able to take a decisive win once again. Meanwhile, the Banshee going to try to do a little bit of damage. Will be spotted by those mutas. That's going to go down as well. Nice little pick off. Dayshi does spot the 4th base in the bottom right, but I don't really think there's much he can do about it for now. He is going to try to go for it, but Hope actually has really nice positioning on his units to come in from 3 sides here. The mutas are out of position, though, and that's not ideal at all.
They're a bit out of position, but it's kind of necessary, because if we saw... I think the best thing Dayshi could do in this situation, he is fortifying this 3rd, which is a smart move. He could pressure with most of his army towards this 4th while dropping into the main base. They're so far apart that it would potentially split Hope up, but Hope maxed out is going to be going for this now, coming in with a big engagement. The Banelings a little late to the party, but are getting in place in time. A couple of Widow Mine hits going off, but none are spectacular. The Mutalisks, on the other hand, though, dealing so much damage here. The bunker going to get taken out. Huge detonations in the SCV line, and now we see significant losses taken by Dayshi. Hope lost a lot of his army, but he certainly put the fear into Dayshi there.
Another thing to note is that he lost a lot of his army, like you said, but his muta count remains at 18, which is still a very formidable force. It's definitely enough to engage an army head-on with. It's enough to snipe medevacs with. It's enough to snipe Widow Mines with. The question is he going to be able to defend this 4th base? He has a lot of Banelings coming in from the left. Lings coming in to flank from behind as well. Good engagement here for Dayshi, though, as he's able to pull on back and engage off creep. Really nice engagement from Dayshi here. He's going to be able to pick up a couple of the straggling Mutalisks, most likely. Moving on forward, those Banelings have only just started morphing. There's only a couple of them that have already been morphed so far. And great splitting coming out of our Terran player. He should be able to get this base.
And if this place goes down, that puts Dayshi in a nice economic spot on equal basis with Hope. Hope's Mutalisks, though, starting to pick away quite nicely. A few more Banelings have morphed in, but the hatchery goes down. The Mutalisks should be able to clean up the remaining inventory with the aid of those Banelings, but a couple more Mutas are going to die regardless.
Yeah, Dayshi now with the supply lead once again. He's even on bases too, which is not ideal for Hope to say the least. Hope also down to 11 Mutalisks. He lost a lot of Mutalisks in that engagement, and this is where things might start to spiral out of control once again. He's only got 6 gases. He doesn't have the gas to really continue producing a lot of Mutas. He's going for a couple of Infestors here, which is kind of nice. Infestors are very nice units to be able to turn the tide of a battle. He went for them very late last game when he'd already lost it, so we didn't really get to see the full potential of the Infestor there. 6 Infestors on the way, though, could definitely make a difference in this game if he can land some great fungals.
And those fungals were quite good in the last map on Heavy Rain. He got some good ones down. If he had the units to support it, maybe he could have won those later engagements. Daishi's still just up in supply, although his 3-3 upgrades, it's worth noting, are very, very late because of the pressure that Hope's been applying. He's still, though, up in upgrades. Currently only 2-1 done for Hope.
Oh, man. Lings just ran into an absolute massacre there. Dayshi picking up a lot of those Lings. There's no pathogen glands. There's no fungal growth on these Infestors. And that could be the deciding factor here. The Muta's getting shredded. The Infestor's getting sniped. All of the Lingbane is gone. Dayshi with a 35 supply lead here. 45 supply lead even. And this all of a sudden looks terrible. Oh, so many Infestors without pathogen glands. It hurts.
That was very painful to watch. The Mutalisks really the last thing standing, but only 12 of them currently there. Checking to see if the 4th base is rebuilt. It hasn't. That's going to allow Dayshi to push in towards the 3rd. He's up now by 50 supply. That is massive. His army supply is double that of Hope currently. He's got a good number of Widow Mines. 3-3 upgrades on the way. And things looking very solid for the Millennium player. Hope really has one last stand. Remember, he's one loss away from being knocked out of WCS this season, so he has to try and make it work. And in he goes. Fungal growths are very good there. The Banelings get amazing detonations. And Hope really does get a massively good engagement.
An absolutely crushing defeat for Dayshi there, but the thing is he's still very far ahead. Good splitting on the Lings to activate those 2 Widow Mines. Hope does not have enough to push in here. He needs to secure a 3rd base because it's going to be very, very difficult for him to push into Dayshi with this much reinforcement power. There's no fungals left, Mattles. And
that means Dayshi, with the reinforcements coming in, can start chasing this down. Pathogen glands just now started. Hope realized his mistake. It's never good missing out fungal growth, pathogen glands for Infestors because you've got no fungal growth.
He's making 8 more Infestors that are going to spawn without the additional energy, and they're going to be useless for the next 30 seconds.
That's just so painful. So painful.
Yeah.
So, Hope, he's not in a terrible position. He has just made one amazing defense, and it was a, as you said, crushing victory for him. But he's got to do that again, probably twice more, if he's going to level out this game.
Losing a Muta for free to this mine as well. Overall, picks off a couple of units for the cost of 1 Muta, which numerically...
Oh no, the Marines are going to come in.
Oh no. Oh no. So many Mutas. Such carnage.
Much well for Dayshi, as he just keeps staying one step ahead. Hope has been so good in this game of nearly making it work quite a few times. Actually, this entire series, multiple times he's nearly managed to win. Nearly managed to take that game, but Dayshi now maxed out. There are some fungal growths available, one missing there unfortunately. And a good flank coming in from Dayshi. Good fungals hitting all around, but just the sheer supply advantage for the Terran player really starting to shine through. The Infestors all getting taken down. Hope under 100 supply loses the Mutalisks. One lone Infestor coming forward. GG Grats, and Dayshi advances 3-0 up into WCS EU.